Okay, this is my audience. Oops. Okay, cool. Okay. Sigmund Freud once said, "The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source of prototype of the effect of anxiety." When he stated this, he meant that during childbirth, the anxiety of the birth dictates the anxiety of the new form of life, both parent and child. No parent wants their child to grow up fearing the world they live in. Many people have heard tales that childbirth is a very stressful time. Anxiety experienced during labor could permanently affect your child. But what if I told you that this one moment was insignificant and was just a drop on the canvas? Through years of research, I've found solid evidence that anxiety in children doesn't come from birth, but from prenatal environment and is learned over a time period by the child. Through studies performed by Dr. R.C. Francis and Ilna Singh, non-genetic anxiety in children could be prevented. I chose this topic because I too have known the dark side of anxiety as well as witnessed it destroy a person from the inside out. Many studies have been done, but no one has connected the pieces for why children are born with anxiety, and is it really the mother's fault for feeling a little nervous on the day she gives birth? In this speech, we will discuss the biological aspect of what forms the child. Following, we will discuss the stress of childbirth and does the baby and cause the anxiety, and finish up with the steps can be done to prevent your next child or your previous child from having prenatal predisposition anxiety. Let's begin. The biological aspects. Studies have revealed that PTSD and anxiety can be formed naturally through traumatic experiences. This opens the door to at what age do you become susceptible to PTSD and or anxiety through environmental changes. Dr. R.C. Francis did a study before and after 9/11 that studied the mother's stress levels and studied the children at birth and years after birth. The children that were born before 9/11 had significantly lower potential to have PTSD or anxiety as opposed to the children born after. During the fetal development stages in the womb, the baby has full hearing capability by weeks 19 to 21. During this period, the baby can begin to hear people's voices and begin to establish connections with their caretakers. A baby after birth has fully adapted vision by 3 weeks after birth. A baby begins to develop a hippocampus 9 weeks after birth and is fully developed by 9 months after birth. We have talked about the development stages of a baby. Now let's consider what could cause a child to have anxiety. With children's senses fully developed before they are even born, it opens the door to what if the environment that you have will forever affect your child. This entitles that if while the baby is still in the womb and has adapted its hearing as well as cognitive memory, what the parents do and say may affect how the child will act later on in life. If a mother feels anxious because of things going on around her, like an abusive environment, the baby will not feel the anxiety with the contractions of the womb, but also will be able to hear and feel the emotions going through in short-term memory. Imagine you're locked in a room and can't get out, but faintly you hear screaming that is barely recognizable, but you can decipher that there is an argument going on. This typically makes you feel uncomfortable and a little edgy on what will happen next. This is what it's like for a baby in the womb. You can't see anything, but you can hear and recognize what is going on enough to cause discomfort. After being born, through classical conditioning, a baby may feel anxious by hearing its own caretaker's voice. Growing up, they will either make the assimilation that their parents are bad, or they will feel uncomfortable in the world they live in, which may cause them to form anxiety. 9 months after birth, the baby has a fully adapted hippocampus. What occurs before birth is now being stored for long-term memory, and if the child has learned through conditioning that these voices are bad, they may act act out, and resent their parents. We have talked about what could cause a child to form anxiety during the stages before and after birth. Now let's consider how it can change and prevent this from happening. Through studies about anxiety prevention, this may help lower chances of giving birth to a child that will have anxiety. During pregnancy, keep calm and relaxed. This will not stimulate the child with negative feelings from the mother and won't induce them into hearing their mother's voice as a negative thing with yelling. After birth, maintain a solid structure in their life and establish a zone where the parents can discuss or argue about things given a situation, if a situation arises. This will protect the baby from forming negative memories or feeling uncomfortable in their home. Always remember that a baby's brain is like a sponge and will always remember even shortly after birth. It is easier to protect them from negativity than it is to try to take it back. Maintain a healthy environment with minimal stress, and the baby will not make the correlation between the two people and how to treat others. Now that we've discussed the biology behind critical periods in a child, both before and after birth, what causes a baby to have anxiety from environment and biological aspects, and talked about how anxiety can be prevented, we can now go into a future for either people that are expecting or people who are wanting to have a child and decipher what to do and what not to do when having a child to ensure that they will grow up not fearing the world, but instead loving it. Peace. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source or prototype of the effect of anxiety. This quote was stated by the famous psychologist Sigmund Freud. This means that the most stressful period of both the mother and the child is the beginning of the relationship at birth. If this situation before and after birth can be maintained, the anxiety will be nothing to worry about, giving both a healthy relationship for the child and the mother. Thank you for allowing me to inform you about the importance of prenatal predisposition anxiety. Okay, and here's my audience again. Oops, wrong way. And thank you.